Welcome to the KC Football Fix podcast, where we cover the latest Kansas City Chiefs news. I'm your host, Luke Gromer, the founder of KC Football Fix, and I'm joined by KC Football Fix contributor Josh Willis. Today on the podcast, we dive into the Chiefs' AFC Championship win over the Ravens. One of the most impressive parts of this Chiefs Super Bowl run, the Lions' collapse against the 49ers, and an early preview of Super Bowl 58. Welcome to the KC Football Fix podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. And don't forget to subscribe to the KC Football Fix newsletter so you can get all the latest Chiefs news summarized into a 3-minute read and delivered to your email inbox every weekday morning during the season and a couple of times a week in the offseason for free. Not only do we give you all the latest Chiefs news, but we love to give away tickets, memorabilia, gear, and more to our subscribers. Go to kcfootballfix.com or click the link in the show details to join more than 4,000 other Chiefs fans that get their daily fix of Chiefs news all in one place for free. Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to the first inaugural episode of the KC Football Fix podcast. You could call this Super Bowl 1. Josh, we're here. Welcome.
We're here. We're live. We're not going anywhere.
That's right.
That's right. In the words of Troy Bolton from High School Musical, this could be the start of something new.
Yeah,
and it is.
It is right here.
New.
And that's why we need to start off with some initial reaction. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl again, fourth time in 5 years, and rematch against the 49ers. And we got to talk about how they got here. AFC Championship game on the road, number 1 seed, going into Baltimore, going into the bank, as MVS so eloquently tweeted after the game. Let's get your initial reaction to the Chiefs' win over the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I was nervous going into the game. Because of the way the season has been so up and down and the offense has been so inconsistent, I thought going up against a number 1 defense like the Ravens, we were in for a surprise. But little did I know we have the greatest football player to ever play the game of football on our team, and he goes by the name of Patrick Mahomes. And that's what I get for doubting someone like Patty Mahomes. So it's amazing. I'm completely shocked that we're going back to the Super Bowl, but at the same time, it doesn't feel surprising at all because this is just what I'm used to. It's at this point, the Chiefs have a 3 to 4 game season, and it starts with the playoffs. Regular season doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. It was crazy. What a win. The Chiefs defense is so freaking good. It's so good. And the fact that they went in and they held the Ravens to 10 points on the road in their stadium was massive. And I think, 1, obviously defense so impressive. And then 2, I was so impressed by how Mahomes just did what he needed to do to win the game. And I'm going to play a clip of it later. It's one of my favorite things that he's said all year, but he has just absolutely embraced being the best quarterback for this team, not necessarily like being the best quarterback when it comes to stats. And he did such a masterful job in the second half of that game and the first half. Obviously they put up some points, but in the second half of like, he was not going to even put themselves in a position where they could make a mistake or turn the ball over, give the Ravens any life or any sort of chance. And he was a master conductor of that team and game manager in the best sense of the word. And then, I mean, a lot of people have talked this season on the defensive side of the ball. It's like, hey, this defense is so good, 2nd ranked defense in the league, but what the heck? They don't get any turnovers. They're like, they've been middle to bottom, kind of like bottom third of the league in turnovers. They just haven't produced a lot. And then all of a sudden, boom, they produce them in bunches. And people have been asking Spags and defenders all season, like, hey, what's the deal with the turnovers? How do you get more? Like, what's the deal with that? And Spags has just kind of said, like, it's random. Like, we're doing the things that we believe will lead to turnovers. And sometimes they just come in bunches. And boy, did they, man. That was the Amenahue strip sack, the L'Jarius Sneed forced fumble at the goal line. Holy moly, keep a touchdown off the board. And Amazing. Then Lamar Jackson just throwing into triple coverage, and Deion Bush out there for 3 plays said, give me that ball. So
Deion Bush
there was so much in that game that was awesome.
Deion Bush went out and got himself a contract for next year by getting that interception during the game. He was like, I'm going to go get mine. But no, I mean, that game was unbelievable. And I think that game is the epitome of Patrick Mahomes' greatness. Like, what makes him so much better than all the other quarterbacks out there is that he knows that he doesn't have to do it all the time. He's learned how to evolve into a game manager and not just having to go put it all on his shoulders, versus you saw Lamar Jackson change the way that he played to try and win it all. And it led to him forcing turnovers, fumbles, those types of things, where Mahomes has really leaned into what makes him great is his ability to adapt his style of play to what the team needs him to be.
And this is on a slightly different note, but it's worth mentioning. Like, Justin Tucker, how dumb do you have to be? Even Kelsey said it on his podcast. Like, you decided to poke the bear. Tucker's comments about like messing with Mahomes' space and pregame warm-up. Tucker's like, yeah, I just didn't think it was a big deal. And obviously those guys were taking it more seriously than me. It's like, yeah, no duh, buddy. They're the ones that are still playing. And then, yeah, like Mahomes is like, yeah, it's only happened to me 3 times, all in Baltimore. Tucker just likes to play these little mind games. Like, dude, and you're the kicker and you're playing these mind games. What are you doing out here, man?
You're acting like he's Mike Tyson trying to start a fight with someone, and he's a kicker, like one of the more useless positions on the football field. It's just, it's ridiculous. But at the same time, as we've seen time and time again, the Chiefs thrive on bulletin board material and thrive when people do stuff like that. Like, this team is not able to get rattled in the playoffs, and that's what makes them unique. Is you try and get their head. I mean, the Ravens had all these dirty hits. They're playing up until the whistle and after the whistle. They had some questionable penalties, trying to get the Chiefs to be chippy and trying to get in their head. The Justin Tucker stuff, all that, and you're not able to do it because an Andy Reid coach team has shown, and it didn't show in the regular season, but in the playoffs they turn it on, and they are just disciplined and well coached, and for the most part played mistake-free football.
Yeah, I think, and I mentioned this in the newsletter the Friday before the game and the what to watch for. Like, it was so key that the Chiefs got an early lead in this game, right? Like, they score that early touchdown, Kelsey with that unbelievable grab, and then with Pacheco getting in. And I don't have the game script in front of me right now. Was it? Oh no, it was 7-7, and then it went 14-7. Right? Lamar Jackson escaped that blitz from Drew Tranquil, and then threw that ridiculous touchdown pass to make it 7-7. And then the Chiefs went down, scored again to go up 14-7. Like, they never trailed in this game. That was so huge, right? The Ravens came in as the top rushing team in the NFL, and the running backs got 6 carries in the game. 6. I think Lamar only had like 8 scrambles. It was crazy. They changed the way that they played, and they really played into the Chiefs' strength. The Chiefs' secondary is so good, and it just seemed like the Ravens freaked as soon as they got down. Like, what do we do?
They've been talking so much stuff, and when the Chiefs went out and just punched him in the mouth and scored on the first drive, the Ravens didn't know what to do, and so they changed everything about their game plan. Lamar had 8 rushes, I think, for 54 yards, like 54 total yards scrambling, and if they were a smart football team, which they had been all season, the Chiefs' one weakness on defense is their run game. They're not fantastic against the run. And so what they should have done was leaned into their run game. But instead, as soon as they got down by a little bit, they changed what they wanted to do, and the Chiefs capitalized on it. And I mean, the defense is just unbelievable. I don't think I've ever had so much fun watching a defense out on the football field than I have this season watching the Chiefs. A bunch of absolute dogs out there.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Drew Tranquil was talking in their press conference today about this. Like, we just got some dogs out there. We're trying to go out and be dogs. Yeah, it was awesome. Let's talk about some of the key plays from this game, and let's start with the defense. Man, it didn't lead to points directly on that drive, but the Minihue strip sack was huge. Man, that dude came off the edge, and just to turn the Ravens over early in the game like that, man, was so important.
Well, just the ability to constantly get pressure, and I think we ended up with 4 sacks total on Lamar, which a quarterback like Lamar is hard to bring down. So the fact that we were able to get 4 sacks is huge. But that Minihue strip sack just fired everyone up, and then you see later on the defense continue to get pressure on Lamar, with Justin Reid had a huge sack in the third quarter. I mean, that defense was nails from the beginning.
Yeah, it was so good. And then obviously the other big defensive play that's gotten the most attention, the the L'Jarius Sneed forced fumble at the goal line recovered by Trent McDuffie in the end zone. I mean, like, just what an unbelievable effort to stick with that play and punch it out at the half-inch line.
It's just, I mean, I need to buy a L'Jarius Sneed jersey. I need to do whatever I can because this guy is just, he's becoming my favorite player. He's so fun to watch. And just time and time again, he keeps making plays of like, Zay Flowers thought he got him, did his little taunting penalty, and then a couple plays later, L'Jarius Sneed says, no chance. I'm still the dog here.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier. Like the Ravens had 8 penalties from 95 yards. It's actually, this is one of the other things I mentioned in the game preview was that going into this game, the Ravens defense. This wasn't even their whole team. This was just their defense. Was the 5th most penalized defense in the NFL, averaging 6.2 penalties a game, 49.5 penalty yards a game. Their defense made a couple dumb penalties that actually allowed the Chiefs to get into field goal range on the last drive of the half to take that 17-7 lead.
The Ravens practically drove down the field for the Chiefs there.
Literally. It was like, and it was such a dumb roughing the passer against Mahomes, like just to the head and late. But then Zay Flowers does that after a huge catch. I think they were down to the 10-yard line, and then boom, 15-yard penalty. Like if Zay Flowers doesn't like clearly taunt him, they probably score a touchdown on that drive. Like it may end up totally different, but Flowers makes a really dumb choice. And then, like you said, like, man, Sneed, just the effort to stick with that. He even talked about, he's like, yeah, he had a step on me. I stayed with it and to punch it out. I mean,
it's just the literal,
who knows if the Chiefs win if he doesn't do that?
Yeah. I mean, that drive was probably one of the more pivotal drives in the game on the taunting penalty that set them back. And then, L'Jarius Sneed able to capitalize on the turnover. You know, I think one of the concerns in the game was the Chiefs' inability to get points off of turnovers. Like we forced 3 turnovers, but yet weren't able to score any points off of those. But you also got to look at, you're playing against the number 1 defense in the NFL. And they turned around, especially in the second half, and really shut the Chiefs out. So kudos to the Ravens. And the one thing I do got to bring up, my personal favorite play is, all those scenes where you see a guy throwing a football as high as he can and then going and catching himself. Well, Lamar Jackson actually did it. I mean, one of the more wild plays I've ever seen in a football game. Catches the deflection and keeps on running. It was awesome. Everyone's just looking around.
Who did that against the Chiefs?
Did that actually happen?
Did Andrew Luck do that a few years against the Chiefs a while back? There's other quarterback that did it against the Chiefs. Like, that's not the first time it's happened, but that was such an unbelievable play. And like, there was going to be a pick. Like, Justin Reed is about to grab the ball, and Lamar Jackson just zoom and just stacks it and starts running.
I mean, he'd be a great basketball player. He followed a shot and he just went and got his rebound and kept on running.
Oh, that's the worst advice in basketball, but that's a tangent. Dude, that play was nuts. Also underrated play. Tommy Townsend had some terrible punts, and then he pinned him at the 1. I think it was either late in the 3rd quarter or the 4th quarter. He just pinned him back there, man. It was so deflating. Like you said, the Ravens defense was really balling in the second half, and Tommy just pins him deep after he kind of had a couple of really poor ones earlier than that. Yeah. So shout out to Tommy Townsend for the flow and for that punt.
Yeah. I mean, he's been somewhat inconsistent this year, but for the most part, he's been fantastic. And that punt was not the nail in the coffin, but it was huge and definitely a momentum killer for the Ravens. But we got to get to the nail in the coffin. Maybe the most hated man in the Chiefs kingdom this year, or the second most hated man in the Chiefs kingdom, but he decides to show up big in the playoffs, the 3rd and 9.
So loved now.
So loved. I mean, pay him all the money he needs. Resign him next year. 3rd and 9 to MVS. Every time I see him being targeted, my heart sinks because I just assume he's going to drop it. But give him credit. He's had some big catches this postseason, and probably none bigger than that 3rd and 9. I panicked when I saw Mahomes throw that ball. I panicked. I was like, "Are you just throwing it away? Like, why are you throwing it here on 3rd and 9?" And lo and behold, there's MVS falling down to catch the ball.
A few things here. Number 1, the clip of Mahomes going over the sideline before that play is awesome. He goes over. I think he goes over now. He's like, "Give me the ball. Give me the ball." Like, Mahomes was like, "I am finishing this game right here." There was no way in the world that he was going to let them run that ball. Mahomes was like, "I'm finishing it." Also, if you haven't heard the Ravens broadcast team on that play, hilarious. You got to watch it. Their color commentator is like, I just can't see any way that the Chiefs pass the ball here. It's got to be a run. And then Mahomes gets it and just knife into their heart, rips the heart out of Baltimore. But yeah, I mean, Mahomes, he's him, right? He's like, no, give me the ball. I'm finishing this game right here. And then on MVS, I was at the New Year's Eve game against the Bengals, and he's had some low points in the season. Obviously, the drop against the Eagles that would have given them a chance to win the game. So many other drops. And then the Bengals game, the dude was wide open on a couple shot plays and dropped him again. And the entire stadium was just exasperated. Like, you just feel everyone's just like, no, get this guy off the field. And Coach Reed's talked about it. Like, MVS gets he should get a lot of credit because it would have been easy for him to fold. And the dude has stayed with it. And he has made, 2 huge catches against the Bills. And then obviously you got the game sealing 32-yard catch to send him to the Super Bowl, like you said, falling down onto his butt. He needs to get a lot of credit. As much hate as he got, he needs to get as much love.
I'm pretty sure I have a text from you on my phone from earlier in the season talking about cutting MVS. So
I can't. I will not confirm or deny that, but I was angry, as many in Chiefs Kingdom were, with all the drops. And I might have said some things that were in an emotional state. And so I've deleted those texts, and I appreciate if you did too.
That's where the veteran, the young receiving core, the young defense, all this stuff, like, it pays to have veterans on the field. And MVS is a veteran in the league, and he decided to show up when he needed to. So thank you for not dropping the ball.
If that's what it took for him to ball in the playoffs, then it's totally worth it. We haven't talked about it
for a major comeback.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't talked about it. We got to circle back to the beginning. Travis Kelce was a freaking beast in this game. This was vintage Travis Kelce, healthy Travis Kelce. I also mentioned in the newsletter on Friday before the game that the Chiefs are 8-2 when Kelce has at least 60 yards receiving, and 5-1 when he catches a touchdown. So you can move that to 9-2 and 6-1. And he's put up big numbers in his previous AFC Championship games. Like, that dude came to ball. That touchdown catch that he had on the opening drive. I mean, what a throw by Mahomes. Like, the only place where only Kelce could grab it.
The perfect
throw. And then for him to go to the ground like that and make that catch, like, the dude's 6'6", and like, what is he, like 250? Like, a massive human being to control his body like that in that tight space. Like, if you're Hamilton, the safety, you're just like, what can I do? Nothing. You can literally do nothing to defend that.
It was great defense by Kyle Hamilton. Like, all things considered, it was just a better throw and a perfect catch. Like, you could just, that whole first drive, the chemistry between Mahomes and Kelce was just on display for the world to see. I mean, they are just so special. And then Kelce in that game passing Jerry Jones for all-time playoff receptions.
Yeah, sorry, not Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones doesn't have a lot of playoff receptions, but Jerry Rice. Passed Jerry Rice.
I'm in Dallas. I have Jerry Jones on the brain. I meant Jerry Rice.
Oh, yeah. Also, the 4th down catch on the opening drive, I think it was 4th and 2 or 4th and 3. Mahomes connects with Kelce for 13 yards right there. I mean, it was just like it was such a momentum shift even that early in the game. Such a tough throw and catch too.
Ugly throws. Mahomes is getting hit and Kelce just laying it all out for that. I mean, it was unbelievable. Kelce is just so special, and he just silenced all the doubters, people saying that he's old, that he's lost a step. He just went out in the AFC Championship and said, "Watch me."
After the game, he said he wants 11 more years. So we'll see if he can do it till he's 47. That'd be nuts.
Tom Brady did it till he was so old. So why can't Travis Kelce?
We've talked about Kelce. We've talked about the defense. We got to talk a little bit about Mahomes, a little more about Mahomes. I'm going to read these playoff stats for Patrick Mahomes. These are from Ari Mirov via X, or formerly known as Twitter. Patrick Mahomes has played in 17 postseason games. Effectively, that's a full regular season. His stats are this: 14-3 record, 422 for 626. That's a 67.4% completion percentage. 4,802 passing yards, 458 rushing yards. That's actually first all time in Chiefs franchise history. Fun fact for you. That was a trivia question this week. 39 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 7 INTs. He's combined for 44 touchdowns. And in the last 6 games, this is since the Chiefs lost to the Bengals in that AFC Championship game 2 years ago. Mahomes has 11 touchdowns and 0 INTs. The last pick he threw was the final throw against the Bengals in overtime of that championship game. Threw it to Tyreek Hill. Bengals pick it off. Chiefs end up losing that game. Those stats are just insane. Playoff stats.
What's most mind-blowing to me is that his last interception came when Tyreek Hill was still on the team, which feels like ages ago. Like,
it's nuts.
It's so special to be able to witness greatness firsthand. And he is just like, I've never seen anything like it. Someone who just is able to turn it on and become even better. Like he's already so good in the regular season, but to turn it on and become unbeatable is just, he's inevitable in the playoffs. He is inevitable.
Yeah. It's the best way to put it. And it just makes it so much better that everybody's like, oh, he's never been on the road. He can't win on the road. He goes into Buffalo and goes into Baltimore. And if you're looking at the AFC playoff picture and you're like, okay, 2 hardest places to go into and win, I'm sure that's where people would have said, oh yeah, I mean, going on the road to those places, brutal, right? The 1 and the 2 seed, crazy fan bases, starred for Super Bowls, and he goes in there and beats them both. Like so impressive. And like we mentioned earlier, the fact that he's doing this and playing mistake-free football in the playoffs, and it's so key. And he's just embraced, like, I don't have to go try to win the game on every drive. I've just got to make sure that we take care of the ball, we put up enough points, and we let our defense do this work, right? We play the field position game, we take care of it, and we take the opportunities when they're there. So impressive. I mean, 0 INTs in 6 games. That's just nuts.
Yeah, it is. I'm speechless. It's just special.
And it's the playoffs. Like, these are the best defenses there are. And those are the numbers he puts up against the best, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's so impressive too, is like the mistake-free football. Cause like you see players that go out there and like, they'll have incredible games. Like the stats for Lamar Jackson were not terrible. Like he was 20 of 39 for 270 something yards, and a touchdown, but like those are in 54 rushing yards, not bad stats. But Mahomes going out there and not making mistakes and putting the ball in his players' hands and not giving it away to the other team. Like that's a differentiator. That's how you win football games.
Yeah, it's so impressive. And I think I want to hit on this. This is what I think is maybe the most impressive part of this Chiefs Super Bowl run, and last year too, but especially this year because it's continued to increase, that the Chiefs are doing this with Mahomes counting so much against their salary cap. There was a graphic shared from the Up and Adams show, and Matt Hamilton shared some more information about it on Twitter. But Patrick Mahomes has the biggest quarterback cap hit number in the NFL this year, just over 37.1 million against the cap. Also, side note, LOL, Ryan Tannehill is second with 36.6 million. Yikes. That's probably why the Titans are awful. We're awful. But yeah, here's from Matt Hamilton. Patrick Mahomes will become the first QB in 30 years of the salary cap era to start a Super Bowl while carrying the biggest cap hit. Last year, he joined Eli Manning as the only other quarterback to win one while ranking in the top 5. And just to put this in perspective, okay, first of all, why is this a big deal? Well, the quarterback is obviously the most valuable position in football, arguably in sport, right? And so typically your quarterback takes up the biggest percentage of your cap space available. And obviously Mahomes is the best, and he's taking up a bigger percentage than any other quarterback in the NFL. To put it in perspective, CJ Stroud, rookie quarterback with the Texans, he was the number 2 overall pick. He counted 6.5 million against their salary cap this year, 2.86% of the team's total, right? So this is why it's easier to win with a rookie quarterback on their rookie contract, because you have all this other salary cap that you can use to put talent around him. Or this is amazing. The Chiefs' opponent in the Super Bowl, the 49ers, Brock Purdy, he's on his rookie contract. He counts $889,000 against their salary cap, 0.38% of the team's total. Not even 1% of the team's total is how much he counts against their salary cap. Mahomes, 37.1 million against the cap, which is 16.89% of the team's total. Like it's huge. He counts as
Insane.
such a big percentage of this team's salary cap, and yet they're here again. And like that tweet from Matt Hamilton said, right? Eli Manning's the only other guy to do this while ranking in the top 5, and Eli would just get like insanely hot in the playoffs, right? And Steve Spagnuolo's defense for Eli Manning would get hot in the playoffs. And Steve Spagnuolo, shout out, common denominator. And the Chiefs are doing this with Mahomes having this big cap hit, whereas other teams, right, the 49ers, for example, right, they've got almost no cap hit from their quarterback, and they can surround him with so much talent. And it's a testament to what Brett Veach has done in the draft.
Absolutely.
How great Mahomes is that he can win while taking up this much of the cap. And it's a testament to these coaches that they get these young players in and they actually get a lot out of them on their rookie contracts. I mean, this defense is just littered with rookie contracts and a few key free agents that they brought in to fill holes. And it's producing at such a high level, which is why the Chiefs are here despite this big cap hit that Mahomes has. It's such an impressive thing that Mahomes should get credit for, Veach should get credit for, and Reed should get credit for.
Yeah. This organization is just from top to bottom so well run, and just so much kudos to Brett Veach for the especially on the defensive side. Like the defensive backs that he's brought in are they are special. And then being able to find a guy like Isaiah Pacheco coming in as a 7th rounder and being one of the top running backs in the league by the end of the season, like Veach has done an incredible job in stacking this roster and filling holes around Patrick Mahomes, in spite of Mahomes taking up such a large percentage of the salary cap. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy allegedly still lives with roommates because he is making.
Because he's only making $889,000.
Which, if I made $889,000
in San Francisco, you got to have a roommate.
That's true. That's true.
Money,
I mean, in San Francisco, you make that much money, and you still got to live in a 500 square foot apartment.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Inflation. We should talk about that. Last thing.
I do. We do need to bring up, while we're talking about Patrick Mahomes, I'm sure everyone's seen it circulating on social media and on the internet, but the dad bod. People are hating on it. It's great. And I think that's part of his greatness. I was listening to the Herd today, and they were out there talking. Colin Cowherd was saying, I want my quarterback to have a little bit of a dad bod. I don't want him to be super jacked. I don't want him to have all the biceps and stuff, because that shows that he's more dedicated to film and like all these things. He doesn't need to be focused on getting a 6-pack. I like it when my quarterback has a bit of a dad bod, and Mahomes has embraced it. I mean, if I could be an athlete like Patrick Mahomes and have a dad bod like that, I'd be very happy.
Yeah. Also, Mahomes' trainer, Bobby, I believe you say Stroop is how you pronounce the last name. He was firing back at some people that were going after Mahomes, his dad bod. I think Cowherd's co-host said something about the cheeseburgers. And
he did.
And Mahomes' trainer, Bobby, just went in on him, just roasting him for his bad takes and bad picks. And it was good. But, dude, Mahomes' trainer is hilarious on Twitter. If you do not follow him, he just retweets and posts all of the people that are bagging on the Chiefs or picking against the Chiefs. He just retweets it all. Just feeds the beast. Just puts it all out there. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I mean, that dude gets Mahomes fired up. Mahomes was actually talking about him in the press conference today because the play where Mahomes gets sacked and he bends over backwards. It looked like his body was going to break in half, and he somehow bends
my
over
heart
backwards.
sank.
He doesn't get sacked too. He like one hand keeps himself up, and he ends up going down after that, I believe, or maybe he threw it away. I don't even remember. But it was just this unbelievable maneuvering of his body, and then his trainer clips that, and then clips a stretch that they do in their workouts. That's almost the exact same movement. And in his press conference today, Mahomes was asked about it, and Mahomes was like, "Man, honestly, I hate that stretch." And he was like, "I'm pretty sure that my trainer put that out there for me more so than other people, so that you can just be like, see, this is why we do it." And he's like, "No, it's miserable, but he just pushes me and makes me keep doing this stuff." It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, getting to get like a little bit of a firsthand view into that, watching the quarterback documentary this past offseason, like. The work that Bobby Stroop does for Patrick Mahomes is a lot of the reason why he's so successful. And like, those are some weird workouts. I would never even think to do something like that, but he's more focused on being flexible and being able to maneuver and not get injured. And that's what makes him able to look like his body's breaking in half, but instead he just gets right back up and keeps going.
Yeah, it was nuts. We've got to talk about this before we move on. I said we were going to play this clip of Mahomes at the podium. This was before the Ravens game. And two reasons. We mentioned earlier, like he has just embraced doing whatever it takes to win. And I think it also just shows what an elite leader he is on this team. So let's listen to this quick clip.
I would say it's just challenging in the fact that I had to deal with a lot of adversity, not having the success that I've had in the past. Knock on wood, I haven't had to deal with any of like the injuries or anything I've dealt with before in a season. So I call those seasons challenging, but at the same time, being able to not win all the games and going out there and have big stats and all that different type of stuff has been different. But it's taught me how to win in different ways and become the best quarterback for our team, not necessarily the best quarterback for stats and stuff like that, but the best quarterback I can be for us to go out there and get wins.
I mean, what a mindset. What an elite mindset. Your thoughts?
I mean, he's just special. He's special too. And honestly, it takes a lot of humility. Like for him to go out and like, obviously he's chasing greatness. Obviously he wants to win Super Bowls and wants to be the greatest of all time and take over Tom Brady. But to be able to have the humility to recognize like, I have to change the way I play, and that's actually going to lead to more success. It's special. I mean, he's an all-time talent, and I pinch myself every morning thinking I'll wake up from a dream, realizing we don't have Patrick Mahomes, but
a dream of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're dreaming of Patrick and then you wake up and pinch yourself. Yeah. It's also like that is the mindset that every coach dreams about their best player having and dreams about every player on their team having. Like, I don't really care. I don't care about my stats. I just want to win and I want what's best for the team. And he's embraced that. Like, look, it's okay.
Yeah.
If I gotta win ugly, if I gotta throw for 200 yards and 1 touchdown, I don't care. I just want to win. And it was so interesting. I was interviewing Dwayne Bowe the other day, and he has an interesting perspective because he was there during the Todd Haley, Romeo Crennel, Herm Edwards years, and then he was there for the first 2 years of Coach Reed's tenure with the Chiefs. And I was asking, like, what changed when Reed got there? And he just talked about the culture and the way that Andy Reid trusts his players to be adults and treats them with respect and trust. And then he talked about the way that they're so good at getting everybody thinking about team. It's like, man, everybody in that building is just thinking win, 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 win. And they're not thinking about their own money. They're not thinking about the check. They know they've got everybody to believe in, like, hey, if we win, you're going to get paid. Like, the money will come. Let's just focus on winning and being great. And then when you have when you've got the best player in the NFL that's all bought into that, well, I mean, the rest of the guys are going to follow.
Yeah, and you see it in the rest of the team too, of Travis Kelce sitting in week 17 to rest and prepare himself for the playoffs instead of trying to go out and get the 34 more yards he needed to have another 1,000-yard season. Like he could have gone out, taken a couple snaps, gotten 34 yards, and been able to go out and get his, but he cares more about the success of the team and putting himself in a position like. Yeah, it speaks to the culture that Andy Reid has created, where you see that trickle-down effect, not just from the leader in Patrick Mahomes, but to the other guys as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. Man, what a game. Chiefs over Ravens on the road, headed back to the 4th Super Bowl in 5 years, went into the bank and stole their money, as MVS said. Also, Lamar is just not in the same conversation as Pat. So that's for another time, but he's just not.
We can talk about Lamar's playoff record other time, but we went into the bank and stole it from the Ravens, just like who's not KC Wolf, that's our mascot, but the Wolf guy who literally robbed banks on his way.
Wow,
to
why can I not
games.
remember his name either right now? The dude that's literally in jail.
Yeah.
Wolf guy.
It's not the KC Football Fanatic or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, not to be confused with KC Football Fix. We are not the Bengals. The Chiefs' opponent in the Super Bowl, the 49ers, once again. And the Lions were up 24-7 at halftime over the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and then they lost. Your reaction to the 49ers win or the Lions collapse, whatever you want to call it?
I was really hoping for a Lions rematch. I love the
Would have
story
been
of the
poetic. It would have been
Lions.
so poetic.
It would have been
No
awesome.
Chris Jones, no Travis Kelce in the first game, and then we rematch in the Super Bowl,
And
beat them.
Kadarius Toney
Like
catches the game-winning touchdown.
Kadarius Toney will not be on the field in the Super Bowl. That is my prediction, and honestly, my prayer.
He was back at practice this week, but yeah, I'm hopeful that he's not on the field during the Super Bowl as well. Or if he is, just hand him the ball in the backfield. Don't throw it to him. Yeah, it was. I mean, the Lions were a really fun story to watch, and their offense is a blast. But I mean, kudos to the 49ers for making halftime adjustments and believing, because they came back, and Brock Purdy played fantastic in the second half. He looked really good, and he gets a lot of hate for being a game manager and not being a talented quarterback, but he continues to prove people wrong, and he played really well in the second half, and the 49ers just showed why they are a better all-around team. Like, the Lions have some serious holes at defense, as evidenced by their massive collapse, and Dan Campbell, love him or hate him, that man is gonna go for it on fourth down, whether you like him or not, and sometimes he's gonna come back and bite him in the ass.
Yeah, he caught a lot of heat for it. It's an interesting conversation because everyone's like, just take the field goal. But it's like, the field goal isn't guaranteed points, especially with their kicker, who's not actually like a top shelf kicker necessarily. And then I have massive respect that the dude is committed to an identity, and he's not going to change, and he's not going to let that moment change him either. And also the fact that he is so aggressive and so analytically driven on those fourth downs, it's part of the reason they were in that position in the first place. And so I don't know. I it's so easy as fans and analyzing this, that people just, they result, right? Like, resulting, where it's like, okay, you judge the quality of the decision based on what the outcome was. And the truth is, the decision might have been good, but the outcome was poor. Like, they're not, and people are like, what? No, yeah, you're judged on the outcome. Like, again, sometimes you make the right call or right decision, and it just doesn't turn out right. Like, for example, we've seen it a bunch this year with the Chiefs, right? There's been so many times where a wide receiver has dropped a wide open pass that could have either helped the Chiefs win the game or move the ball into a better field position. Like, they made the right call. Mahomes made the right decision throwing it to the open dude, and the outcome was poor. And that's what's so impressive, again, about Mahomes and MVS and all of this, is like, they've stayed committed to trusting each other and making the right decision over and over again. And I think that gets lost a little bit in the Dan Campbell situation. Like, hey, look, like, maybe it was the right decision. The outcome was poor, and you just got to live with that sometimes.
Yeah. I think it did show that the Lions aren't going anywhere. Like, for being such a sad franchise for so long, they're a really talented team. And the fact that their offensive coordinator decided to stay and go at it again, like, they're going to be in the conversation again next year, but they're going to have to get through the 49ers, and the 49ers are a really damn good football team. They have so much talent on every area of the field. I mean, Deebo Samuel is unbelievable. There's no player like him. Yeah, there's no player like him in the NFL. So yeah, they proved why they deserve to be in the Super Bowl, and I think it's going to be a really good game. It's going to be really fun to watch the way that the Chiefs defensive backs go up against Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan, and a great offensive mind. But I'm excited for it. The 49ers are a good team. So what were your thoughts on the NFC Championship? What'd you see?
I will be totally transparent. I didn't get to watch it super closely, as I was just furiously writing the newsletter for the next morning after the Chiefs win. But I was blown away that the 49ers came back and won. I mean, the 17-point lead at half. And yeah, that collapse is so heartbreaking. But like I said, I mean, I'm a Dan Campbell fan, and that, like, the dude's a leader. He's turned around a franchise that was in the dumps, and like I said too, he's committed to being who he is and sticking to his beliefs, and like, that's what you want from a guy that's leading your team. And the Niners are stacked. Like, they got a lot of talent. Kyle Shanahan is, I mean, he just gets people high school wide open consistently. And yeah, the Lions defense wasn't quite up to par in this one at all season. I think they were middle of the pack to like lower third. And so, yeah, good run. It'll be interesting. Making it to the championship game is hard. It'll be interesting to see if the Lions can maintain the consistency that they yeah, the success that they had this year. And obviously they were on the brink of the playoffs the year before, but can they keep doing that? It'll be interesting to see with Campbell.
You know, you're doing something right as a team when, as the Lions, they're talked about more in the national media and on this podcast than the team who won is. Like, everyone's still talking about the Lions more. It's like, cool, the 49ers won. Everyone expected them to be there. But the Lions, I mean, can you believe that they even got to the AFC Championship?
Yeah. Hey, honestly, it gave me chills after I think it was the divisional round. It was when they beat the Rams, and Dan Campbell just comes to the locker room and goes, Jared Goff, you're good enough for Detroit, man. That was awesome. Like, what a cool redemption story for Jared Goff. And then, just Campbell's leadership is cool. Dude, well, let's quickly hit a few before we talk some Super Bowl. Let's hit a few NFL headlines of note for the people out there listening. There's been lots of coaching hires. We're not going to get into all of them, but we are going to hit a couple of the latest ones. And the first one is the Chiefs actually lost a man in their front office. The Panthers hired the Chiefs Brant Tillis. I believe he's to be their executive vice president of football operations in Carolina. And Tillis has been with the Chiefs for a while, and he's given credit, a lot of the credit, for managing the Chiefs' cap situation. So an interesting nugget there. He's worked alongside Brett Veach managing the cap, and really, he and Veach have done, like we talked about earlier, a really impressive job of managing the cap with Mahomes' this big cap hit, and then still keeping talent around him. So that was one of the headlines. Second one, and I'll hear your thoughts on this, Josh. The Commanders just hired Dallas defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, also former head coach of the Falcons, as their new head coach. And with that, it means Eric Bieniemy, former Chiefs offensive coordinator, does not once again get a head coaching job. All the head coaching vacancies have been filled, and EB is left out again. But there is some speculation that he may stay on as the Commanders offensive coordinator. Josh, your thoughts on EB not getting a head coaching job again?
I'll be honest. I'm a bit frustrated. I think EB has time and time again done and proven that he is capable of being successful as an offensive coordinator, and he finally got out from underneath Andy Reid's shadow this year. And at least offensively, the 49ers were pretty productive. Sam Howell threw for a lot of yards.
Yeah, the 49ers are in the Super Bowl.
Man, I am reading the wrong thing. The Commanders.
That's right.
It's been a long day. The Commanders were not bad offensively. Sam Howell threw the ball for a lot of yards this season. He also turned the ball over a lot, but that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, sad to see it. I was hoping that EB was going to get a chance this year, and I don't know, I don't really agree with hiring Dan Quinn as a head coach. He's a great defensive coordinator, but if the Commanders are going to go and try and draft a quarterback this year, and I would want to choose an offensive head coach to try and develop my quarterback. And EB has a lot of track record in helping develop Patrick Mahomes. So I don't know, sad for him, but I think Dan Quinn's a great coach. Was a fine head coach in Atlanta, so we'll see how he does in Washington.
It's an interesting thing with EB. There's two things that I think about Bieniemy. One, whenever you're in that position of offensive coordinator with a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, there's always the question out there, okay, are you good or is he just that good? And all the players give EB tons of credit. And this is not to say that he's not good, but I'm sure that's the question that, right, an owner is wondering, okay, was this really Bieniemy, or is this how good Reid and Mahomes are, that combo? And the second thing is, it's widely known what kind of coach Bieniemy is. He is much more old school, much more in your face. He's the yeller. He is the previous era of coach, and that is becoming less and less of a thing and less something that players necessarily want or respond to. And on something I'm guessing that owners are more cognizant and aware of. And this isn't to say oh, he needs to change who he is, because one of the keys, I think, of being a great coach is being authentic. And, I think that's probably a factor in him not getting head coaching jobs, is that the way that he coaches probably has scared some owners off in thinking, well, is this going to work as the head honcho, as the guy leading
Yeah.
this, if
Yeah.
he is coaching and leading like this, which I think is a fair question for owners to
Yeah.
ask. And if I owned a team, I would be thinking the same thing and wondering the same thing.
Yeah, because I mean that type of coaching style can very quickly lose you a locker room and alienate players. And if you're an owner, that's the last thing you want. So I understand the concerns. It's just he's been successful as an OC. I'd love to see him get a shot because I'm a big EB fan. So maybe next year.
Yeah, I hope for him. I do hope he gets a shot too. Last coaching news headline, the Seahawks hire Mike Macdonald, Ravens defensive coordinator, as their new head coach. I believe they've given him a 6-year deal, and Macdonald is going to be the new youngest coach in the NFL at just 36 years old. So, hey, that Ravens defense is good, man. We saw it in the second half. They balled out. They balled out all year. And interesting that the Seahawks went from one defensive coach in Pete Carroll to another one. They went from the oldest coach in the NFL now to the youngest coach in the NFL. And the only other headlines are on the coaching front is who got left out. Bill Belichick, no coaching job. Pete Carroll, he's going into an advisory role with the Seahawks. Some people thought he would still try and maybe find another head coaching job, but both of those guys out of coaching this next year. Yeah,
Which
interesting.
makes Andy Reid now the oldest active head coach in the NFL.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't realize that. That's
I
right.
know.
Mike Florio is still going to put out ridiculous articles about how he's going to retire. Goodness. Yeah, that dude just does things for clicks. It's comical almost. It doesn't sound like Big Red's going anywhere. So Chiefs Kingdom, sleep easy and pinch yourself if you're dreaming of Patrick Mahomes like Josh does. Let's talk about the Super Bowl and some surprising stats, Josh, that you found about Brock Purdy and the 49ers. Let's start there and talk about what it might mean.
Yeah. What's interesting about Brock Purdy this year is, typically you see young quarterbacks not able to translate well to the NFL and being able to be rattled under pressure. But Brock Purdy this season was the number one QB in the NFL against the blitz during the regular season. Threw for 1,529 yards, about 9.9 yards per attempt, 14 touchdowns, and a 127.9 passer rating when blitzed. As we know, everyone's favorite coach on the NFL or on the Chiefs. I don't know about everyone's favorite. My favorite coach on the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo. He loves to blitz. He's blitz heavy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Spags disguise blitzes and all that go against Brock Purdy, who is very successful against the blitz. But I don't think he's played a defensive coordinator like Spags yet.
Yeah, it will be one of the interesting chess matches in the Super Bowl is Purdy against the Chiefs blitzes. Because like you said, Spags is pretty dynamic in disguising those blitzes. He was talking at a press conference the other week about all the different names they have for the coverages that they'll slide into late. He was like, yeah, we got toggles and twists, and he just said a bunch of other words too. And I was like, oh, what? But yeah, Spags is a teacher, man. He's so impressive what that defense has done. And like you said, Andy Reid praised him too. Like it's not the Chiefs do blitz. Spags likes to blitz. It isn't. They aren't quite as blitz heavy as people think. But Reid praised Spagnuolo's timing of the blitzes. Like Spags really knows when to bring it. And yeah, if the
he's
Chiefs
so good at disguising it. He's so good at disguising it.
If the Chiefs can get to Purdy and make his life miserable under pressure, the secondary is so good. Despite the 49ers weapons, I think I like our chances if we can get pressure on him.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key is getting pressure, especially we missed this earlier, but with Amenahu now being out with a torn ACL, we're going to have to see if some other guys are going to be able to step up and generate pressure, which could mean more design blitzes to get people favorable matchups to get pressure on Purdy.
Yeah. The good thing is I'm about 95% sure that Chris Jones gets about another $1 million if the Chiefs win this game. So you're probably going to see a man possessed again and just absolutely wrecking plays. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what the Chiefs defensive line is like without Amenahu. Obviously, we saw the first 6 games of the season while he was on a suspension. But yeah, he's been an important part, man, and really good at getting pressure on the quarterback. Obviously, that strip sack was huge. I think the other position group and one other player that I think will be very key in this game against the 49ers are the linebackers and Trent McDuffie. The linebackers and Trent McDuffie, and here's why. Christian McCaffrey is a dude, man. That guy in space with the ball is so dynamic. And there's probably going to be quite a few situations where obviously linebackers are covering him out of the backfield, and or it would not surprise me if Trent McDuffie is covering him out of the slot or even when he's in the backfield. And the way that those guys tackle McCaffrey in space could be really, really big in this game. And I think the good thing is all those guys, the Chiefs linebackers and Trent McDuffie, are really good at tackling in space. And so I think one of the keys is going to be those guys getting McCaffrey to the ground, because the 49ers are going to get him the ball, but can you get him to the ground and not let him break tackles and break big plays is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs defense learns to, or figures out how to navigate. You got Ayuk, who has turned himself into a number one wide receiver this year, probably going to have Snead matched up across from him majority of the time. And then you still got Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey to figure out. So you got George Kittle on offense. Like, it's going to be the 49ers have some serious weapons. It's going to be interesting to see how Spags and the defense decide to slow them down.
This is a side note, but do you remember in Super Bowl 54 when people were like, George Kittle's better than Travis Kelce? What a joke. What an absolute joke. They're not even in the same breath.
No.
I just wanted to highlight that.
People still continue to talk about it. People still continue to talk about
tight end. Dumb. Travis Kelce is one of the best receivers of all time. Not even tight end, but one of the best receivers of all time.
I bet Blake Bell's a better blocker than George Kittle.
Oh, Blake Bell. He's something, man.
The Belldozer.
Last thing I'll say on key to victory, and we'll talk more about this next week. The Chiefs have got to play another turnover-free, mistake-free football game on offense. If they do that, our defense is so good. Like I think our defense will slow down the 49ers' high-powered offense. They've done it against some of the best offenses in the league, against the Bills, against the Ravens, against the Dolphins.
Like, the 49ers last year.
This defense shuts people down.
Yeah. I mean, we shut down the 49ers last regular season, and this defense is significantly better than last year's.
Yeah. Josh, you have a couple surprising stats that we need to hit, and then I actually have a surprise segment before our Super Bowl predictions. So give us these fun stats, and then I've got something fun for you.
Perfect. I can't wait. Well, what's interesting is that the Chiefs this year have allowed 28 points or less in all 20 of their games this season, which is the most in NFL history. There's been 4 other teams who have allowed less than 28 points, but all of them did it in only 19 games. So that stat,
and that's because of the 16-game season changed to a 17-game season.
That stat, most of the NFL needs a little asterisk next to it because of the NFL adding in one game. But the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Buccaneers, 2005 Steelers, and the 2010 Packers all held their points to 28, or all held their opponents to 28 points or less. Luke, do you know what all of those teams have in common?
I would guess that they finished their season pretty strong.
They did. The strongest that you can finish your season, actually. All 4 of those teams won the Super Bowl. So wow. The odds are in the Chiefs' favor by their track record of holding their opponents to 28 points or less. But what's even more special and what's even more in the favor for the Chiefs is this next surprising stat. You know me, I've always been a big fan of lunar phases, and I just love the moon. Well, some people with way too much time on their hands went back and figured out what the phase of the moon is going to be during the Super Bowl and the Chiefs' record during that moon phase. And so the Chiefs in the last 5 years are 19-1 during waxing crescent conditions. And guess what the moon phase of the Super Bowl will be?
Give me the waxing crescent.
It's going to be a waxing crescent. 19-1. You can't argue with those stats. I mean, the odds are in the Chiefs' favor.
Yeah. I mean, the moon is big. Also, shout out Jay Kuda is his name. The graphic he put together on Twitter is it's absolutely beautiful to look at too.
It's awesome.
Like you said, the fact that this dude went that deep into Chiefs victories with a waxing crescent moon. Like this post got 2.2 million views. That's how good it is. So Jay, if you're listening to this, I highly doubt you are, but if you are, we just want to give you a shout out. That is just really impressive work.
Thank you for doing the work we can never do.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, man, lunar analysis. That could be his own podcast. Gosh, that's
That's
amazing.
not the surprise segment, is it?
Well, no, but that was just so good. We had to talk about it. Here's the surprise segment. Before we started recording, I was eating some dip. I was eating some street corn, and I was thinking about the best dips. So I'd like for us to talk about our top 3 dips. People are getting ready for the Super Bowl, planning their Super Bowl party, and we need to talk about the 3 best dips that they need to have at their Super Bowl parties. And I will start because I've been thinking about it the whole time you've been talking. I haven't really been listening to you. I've just been thinking about dips. The first one is I love a good street corn dip. Fantastic. So good. Street corn dip with tortilla chips. Oh, give me some of that. I had some hint of lime chips. Dynamic combo. So give me some street corn dip. That's my number 1. Number 2, give me some of that spinach and artichoke dip. Costco, Sam's, they both have it. So delicious. Get you some fresh, warm pita in there, or some of those crispy pita chips. I'm all about that. So if you're keeping track, street corn, spinach artichoke dip. And the third one, I got to give a shout out to my mom here. She makes this incredible fruit dip. It's a fruit dessert dip. It's got some strawberries, some raspberries, it's delicious. And then this is the part that's really special about this dip is she gets a bunch of tortillas and she coats them in butter and cinnamon and sugar. And then she bakes them and she cuts them into little triangles. And you dip this delicious cinnamon and sugar tortilla triangle in this fruit dip. And then you enjoy it. And I want to eat that while I watch the Chiefs win another Super Bowl. So those are my top 3 dips, and I want to know what yours are.
Man, those are good dips. I'd say my top one is probably Grizzly wintergreen long cut. Always, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. That is a good dip though. No, number 1 overall dip, hands down, the greatest of all time, buffalo chicken dip. You just can't go wrong with it. It's so good. You can make it in the crock pot. You can make it in the oven. It's great. Number 2 dip is it's queso, but it's not just any queso. It's a smoked queso. So you gotta make it in a cast iron skillet. I've made it a couple times on the Traeger. Get a cast iron skillet, throw a bunch of different cheeses in, some Rotel. You smoke it on the Traeger. It is serve that with your hint of lime chips. You're gonna like it. So that's 1 and 2. Man, the third one is a tough one. I'm probably going to go again with the spinach and artichoke dip as well. It's too good. You can eat it hot. You can eat it cold. Especially
it is a dynamic dip. It is dynamic.
It is. You could argue it's the Christian McCaffrey or the Deebo Samuel of dips. They're dynamic. Yeah. They're versatile. The jalapeno, the jalapeno spinach and artichoke dip. If you're down for a little spice in your life. Yeah, you need the kick.
You need the kick. Yeah, well, that's good. Everyone, you're welcome. Send us pictures of your dip at your Super Bowl party. No wintergreen, but the dips that you're eating with chips. Send us pics, and we'd love to see your dips. Now, let's talk about some early Super Bowl predictions. With a disclaimer here, we both reserve the right to change these next week on the show when we preview the Super Bowl more in depth. So, Josh, start us off. Give us your early prediction.
Man, I'll be honest. I've thought about this for about 30 seconds so far. And my Super Bowl prediction, Chiefs 24, 49ers 17, with a surprise Super Bowl MVP of Travis Kelce.
Wow. Does he shout out Taylor Swift in his MVP acceptance speech?
She's going to be up there with him. Have you not heard about all the people doing math on she's performing in Tokyo, but there's a flight that leaves from Tokyo to Las Vegas that she's going to be able to get on and make it in time for the Super Bowl.
No, what I'm referring to is, and this is probably something we should dive really deep into next week on the podcast. I think I'm joking. Is all the odds about Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl, the bets that you can place. So there's a bet you can place. Will the Super Bowl MVP give a shout out to Taylor Swift in their speech? And you can place a bet on that. So if Travis Kelce wins it, you might want to put your money down on him giving Taylor a shout out there.
It'd
Yeah.
be fun to do if Travis Kelce's gonna name drop a bunch of her songs, be like, we were out there, played really hard, and the 49ers got up a little bit, but we just had to shake it off and come back and win. And
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe we can do a Taylor Swift bingo and Travis Kelce's MVP acceptance speech.
Yeah, that'd be good. My prediction for this game, Chiefs 20, 49ers 13. I can't see the Chiefs scoring a lot more than that, maybe getting to the 24 or 27. But then I just can't see the Chiefs defense giving up much more than that. And yes, the 49ers are good, but goodness, this defense just balls out. And yeah, like you said, they haven't given up, more 28 points all season long. Hard for me to see the 49ers even breaking 20 in this game with how well the defense is playing. Well, that does it, Josh. Chiefs, 49ers, Super Bowl 58. It's coming soon. We can't wait. That does it for us here on the KC Football Fix podcast. Before we sign off, just a reminder, go to kcfootballfix.com or click the link in the show details. If you'd like to subscribe to the free newsletter, join over 4,000 Chiefs fans, get your daily fix of Chiefs news all in one place and for free. Until next time, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm Luke, that's Josh, and this is the KC Football Fix podcast. Thanks for listening.